You're listening to the Family Discipleship Podcast, a podcast of training the church.
This is Adam Griffin, and I'm here with my co-hosts. First, Mrs. Cassie Bryant.
Hello.
Cassie, what's something that comes naturally to you, so it's hard to understand when it's so hard for other people?
It's hard to pick.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Wit. No. I think
wit.
decision making.
Really?
I'm very decisive.
And you stand by them, or do you ever have to backtrack?
I don't often experience regret.
Oh.
I have a lot of freedom and this is what I decided. I had a friend, a college roommate, that was paralyzed by decision. Couldn't decide between sweet potato fries or regular fries.
Yeah.
Whatnot. And she's like, what do you do if you regret or you look and you wish you got the thing they got? And I'm like, I don't. I just get what I get and I don't throw a fit. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. I think,
Decision making. Chelsea Griffin is also here, my lovely spouse.
So lovely.
Chelsea, what is something that you feel like comes to you naturally and you don't understand why it's hard for other people?
I can remember a lot of things.
Boy, that's
yes.
true. Numbers,
I
dates.
was about to say, I can especially remember numbers. And when I first started training younger nurses, I just noticed them writing things down like crazy. And it drove me bananas. And I remember thinking,
just memorize that.
Yeah, how could you possibly forget the exact minute that we walked into the OR? It's an important time, so of course you're just going to remember it. And they'd be writing these things down like crazy. And through that whole process of training nurse, that's when I realized I think I maybe have an uncanny knack, especially for the numbers.
Yeah.
But really just things I read if I see it.
When I write your biography, it's going to be called Chelsea Griffin, an uncanny knack.
An uncanny knack.
I thought you were going to say a woman of the numbers. Something like that.
Number that woman. Number one. I love it.
Number one.
What about you, Adam?
Oh, what's easy for me that's hard for other people?
Oh, I can answer that.
What is it?
I'm not going to put you in the spot, so don't feel like you have to.
Well, we're just being recorded for, billions across the world to hear. But go ahead.
Billions.
Yeah.
Billions.
Even the children are
Thank you, Lord. Thank
I'd
you,
like
Lord.
to post this on the internet for the whole world to hear.
No, if you are forced to draw something, write something, write a song, you're like Chat GPT.
So creative.
Write a song, write a poem, do this, and he just starts rattling something off. You could give me all day or all year to put it together, and it would never, ever happen. But Adam has written a lot of poems to our city. When
you got to give God. I don't just write poems to the city of Dallas.
No,
we're gonna let that one fly.
in Dallas,
we'll have to check our social media to find out why.
in Dallas, you can 311 something, which is you're not going to call 911, but you're letting some city officials know that there's a situation.
Yeah.
And Adam has found he gets better responses, and
I'm more entertained.
Yeah, by writing poems.
Feel heard.
Yeah, and he didn't tell me he would be like, oh yeah, I did a 311 about the new graffiti at the park or whatever. And I was like, okay. And then one day, I don't remember how it got opened up with the two of us. He didn't tell me that every single time he was writing a very clever little poem.
This is why you were so drawn to him. You love rap. You love rhyme.
I love it.
Oh, I'm a rapper for you.
Look at him. He's obviously a rapper.
I do have a mic in my face.
I'm like one of those rap guys' girlfriends.
Speaking of girlfriends, this season we're talking about marriage. I don't know. Segue, not my best. Good cough. We'll keep rolling anyway. It's great.
It's because I put you on the spot saying you're so creative and clever and come up with stuff.
Really thrown off.
And now you're stressed.
I'm emotionally blushing.
Just calm down.
It's good. Well, this semester we are talking about marriage on the Family Discipleship Podcast. We've addressed this already in the first couple episodes about why a Family Discipleship Podcast would talk about marriage. But let me just summarize it for you. If this is the only episode you're listening to and you're confused based on the title and subject matter, well, we focus on spiritual leadership at home. And for many of our listeners, spiritual leadership at home has a lot to do with their marriage. It has to do with the health of their marriage, the unity of their marriage. And when you're talking about even the spiritual leadership, when you're thinking about as a parent, we want to raise great future husbands and wives. If the Lord would be so kind to give our kids marriages or contented singleness, that's great. But I would love it if the kind of things we focus on now are the kind of things that we're discipling our kids because they're seeing it modeled in mom and dad, and that it's going to bless the overall spiritual leadership of kids in your home because mom and dad are more on the same page. That's why last time we talked a little bit about, when you think about things differently, is that always a curse or a blessing? Today, we're talking about what if I'm comparing my best versus your worst. So I hope that this season and this episode in particular feels kind of like some friends sitting down with you talking about, hey, do you ever do this? Do you find yourself doing this? What does that look like? We definitely do that in our marriages. How can we forsake that or hand that over to the Lord when it's sinful? How could it become a blessing? But when I say that, my best versus your worst, what kind of stuff comes to mind for you? Cassie, what comes to mind for you?
Why wouldn't I compare my best to your worst?
Why do you?
I mean, I'm always winning. If that,
yes.
It just feels so good to be like, look at all the ways I'm better than you.
Why are we like that though? Why does my heart so crave? Like, I love my spouse, but why do I want to find ways that I'm better? Why do I long for affirmation so much? I'm sincere. I'm a bottomless pit for affirmation. Amen. Chelsea, it's never enough. And most of the time I don't believe it. So
I like to blame youth sports.
Oh.
I don't know why. I just feel like maybe I'm tired of youth sports.
You just gotta find a scapegoat.
It starts there, like comparing best versus worst and talent versus weakness. No, I think it's just our sin nature, right? We just want to always level up. We're like, how do I measure up to this person? I mean, it's not just our spouses we do this with. We do it with coworkers. We do it with friends, right? Girlfriends are the worst in terms of like catty girl groups and like being jealous and leveraging like, oh, well, my husband took me here on a date night or,
just it's easy in your marriage because you see somebody really up close. So you've never had this kind of opportunity to really compare.
To inspect.
And at home, like we should feel at ease. And so sometimes that's where, certain habits or even like our flaws might be on more display. Maybe we wouldn't show anger or laziness at our workplace because there's pressure not to. And then maybe some of those things would be on display at home. And so then it's easy for the spouse who sees it to go, yeah, see, I'm not like that. But see, there she is doing those things.
Yeah, for a lot of marriages, we don't just have like, another argument. You have one argument that lasts a long time. You keep coming back to the same thing, in other words. Like, it's the same, it's the recurring theme, even if it's a different subject. Do you remember what's the one recurring argument that the disciples have?
Who's the greatest?
Who's the greatest? They have it almost every time Jesus tells them he's going to go die. They're like, but also who's the greatest? Even at the Last Supper, they're sitting around the table and he's like, when he's going to betray him? He's like, but while we're talking about one of us betraying you, which one of us is the best, right? And so we bring that, the disciples brought that to their discipleship of Jesus. We absolutely bring that into marriages where we're constantly looking around going like, is there a way that I'm measurably better so I can feel okay about myself, so I can win, so I can point out where you're wrong and you would hear me? We're looking for ways where I can compare my best and compare it to your worst. So we look at our strengths and we compare it to somebody else's weaknesses. Cassie, what's the problem with that kind of thinking? If I'm comparing my best to your worst.
Well, it's also what you perceive as weakness and perceive as strength is what I would say. So like, I'll give you an example. It took me a very long time to stop resenting Eric for needing more sleep than I do. And I perceived it as laziness or like whatever. Unfair. Like that means I'm having to be productive 2 to 3 more hours of the day than you are. And it's like, it's not till I reached my limits in different spaces where it's like, oh, right, we're limited human beings. And maybe it's not a weakness that he needs more sleep. Maybe like, the weakness is maybe how I even steward those hours. Like, okay, I have more waking hours, but what am I actually doing with them? Am I Netflixing? Am I like whatever it is? And so the same thing, I could also talk about like multitasking, right? I love to multitask. I think it's such a power play when you can do a couple things at a time. And Eric is not a multitasker. He would tell you. He would actually call multitasking time cheapening, which is a real blow to my ego.
But he's very strong at it.
But his strength is being fully present. So when I call him and he doesn't answer because he's like with guy friends or whatever, I'm like, his phone's not on him. He's not trying to be anywhere at all the different places. He is fully present. He is exactly where he needs to be, doing what he needs to do. And it just helped me see that as a strength and how both of those things are shaping our girls, and how, he might go as far as to say his multitasking is awful, is like sinful, but, or trying to be godlike. But it's like, I see both as strengths. And so I think, again, it comes back to perception, which we kind of talked about last episode, but perception's everything.
It is a little like last episode where you go like, is him being able to sleep longer than you, is that his strength against your weakness?
Right.
Or is it your strength against his weakness that you're able to get up and get more done? Right. It's like, well, if you just thought about it the same way I did, that would solve this.
Yeah.
And in this case, you're going, well, here's something I'm really good at, and here's something he's really bad at. That's too harsh a way to say it, maybe to put those words in your mouth, but it is what we do. We say, here's where I have some confidence and I come out on top because you're not as good.
Especially if the world values that thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there are things maybe I value that are more like worldly and they come across as strength in the workplace or whatever. And then there are these things that he values that are so godly and biblical, you know, it's like as a counselor. And so it's just interesting because, it's just a very interesting topic.
Jessica, what comes to mind for you when you think about marriages where people are comparing their best to their spouse's worst?
I think there's a sad false gospel that we're on the hunt to be justified, right? We want to look at somebody else and go, I knew it. I'm good enough. I knew it. I
merited.
I'm awesome. Or I can feel this like satisfied source of justification. Of course, it doesn't actually satisfy. If it did, then you would just stop there. But instead, you're going to keep comparing, keep doing this. So we know it doesn't satisfy, but there's a deep sense in everybody, even if they don't know the Lord, of this need to be justified. That's why people can't help but share if they do a good deed, or people love to just share their opinions. And there's a sense of like, I need justification. I just think where we could really, really rest in God saying, you are justified by the blood of Christ. And it's the only thing that will justify you. Not being more responsible than your spouse, better with money than your spouse, better with your workflow and energy than your spouse. None of those things are actually going to redeem you. None of those things are going to save your soul. None of those things take your sin away. But there's just something in our nature that looks everywhere but Christ sometimes for that sense of feeling justified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should couples have different strengths and weaknesses? Should that be normal?
We need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do we need it?
We need somebody to be the early bird and somebody to be the late night girl.
Or I'm both. In our
That's funny.
But somebody's got to be well rested.
Someone's got to be well rested. Someone has got to be.
Yeah.
No, I think the strengths play on each other. Like your strengths, hopefully together, make you even like more strong.
A better match. Yeah.
Better. Yeah. Like better for your home. Like it's good. If one is good with finances, then the one that's not good with finances should praise God that God gave them a spouse that's good with finances.
And should not resent them.
And not hold that. Yes.
Right? We've seen so many marriages where it's like there's a spouse who is good with finances and then one who's coming into the marriage with a lot of debt. And they hang that over their head of their spouse for like any argument they want to win. Well, maybe if you hadn't brought so much debt, or maybe if you didn't spend this way. And what they're doing is saying like, see how good I am, see how bad you are. And it puts myself in a position of control, power, and authority, which for some reason our human heart craves all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not even fair. Like we're not even actually comparing weaknesses. We're comparing differences like we talked about in the last episode. But where it is actual weaknesses, how cruel is that?
Yeah.
To say, look where you're not as good as me.
Yeah.
And then to say, see how grateful you should be for me. See how bad you should feel about yourself. See how I win. I must be right. Look at you. You're just not as smart, not as capable, not as good. That's cruelty to rub that in somebody's face. And honestly, we would do it with our spouses implicitly or explicitly in a way you would never do with your kids. Or I would hope you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Where you'd go like, look how good mommy is at this and look how bad you are at that. You wouldn't do that to your kid.
Yeah.
You would call them up to something better if it was an actual sin struggle or an area you want to train them. But the fact that husbands and wives will look at each other and say, yeah, look, you're kind of stupid for the way you do that. Or why can't you be as good at this as I am? It's a little bit of like, if you were so smart, how come you're not me? You know? Chelsea, why do you think we're tempted to compare strengths and weaknesses? You said there's something rooted in the gospel, but that our heart is constantly looking for that justification. What else is there? Like, why am I tempted to say, I need to find somewhere where I'm stronger than my spouse?
Because we want to feel good about ourselves.
But why does that make me feel good about me?
Because we're messed up.
What's messed up about that?
I mean, there's just, we're made to worship, right? And so like that's the kind of creature we are, right? Rocks and trees don't worship, but we were made to worship. We're wired that way. We're looking for it. I think there's also a pride. When I was talking about that need for justification, a lot of us know that Jesus purchased that for us.
Yeah.
There's something about the freeness of that bothers some of us. It would be more pleasant for God or anyone to say, actually, it's because you're awesome.
Yeah.
That you earned it. Some of us want to earn it. And, that's a dysfunction of sorts. And obviously like a delusion to think that maybe we could, but we do that in little bite-sized chunks and say like, I've proved today that I'm worthy of something, a little exaltation because I'm always on time and my spouse is not. Or I always remember all the things on the calendar my spouse can't seem to. I don't know. I think it just appeals to us. So we might feel like we earned that justified status rather than that, equal with everybody across the board. That kind of like everybody's special, which means no one is. We want to feel special and we want to feel like we earned it.
Yeah, doesn't that go back to the original sin, right? Where Eve's looking at the fruit and the temptation is, hey, there's a strength that God has that you don't have. What if you could have that?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be better? And instead of being satisfied and going like, isn't it okay that God is God and I'm not? It's very appealing to Eve to go, no, that would be great. I would be better. I could take the place of God. And a little bit of that seed of I could take the place of God is in what's all these conversations. I could be the one who knows best, is best. I could be the one who is worshiped. You see it in the next story, in Cain and Abel. What happens? You have these two siblings, right? These two children at whatever age they are, they're sons of Adam and Eve. And one of them is looking at the other and going, I want what he has. How come Abel is getting the attention of God? I want the attention of God. Why doesn't God accept my sacrifice? And Hebrews would tell us it's because Abel gives with faith and Cain does not. But ironically, Cain is looking for God's attention. And then God talks to him and says, hey, sin is crouching at your door. Do you not know if you did what was right, you would be accepted? He's like, that acceptance you want, you have it. Yeah. So why is it driving you nuts that Abel has it when it could be yours? And Cain lets it drive him to give in to sin. And it's the same pattern we see over and over again in the Bible. There's something in people that wants to be made much of. And the way we find a way to do that is by exploiting, oppressing, putting down other people, insulting others. That's our way of building ourselves up. It's the way that the world leads. God would say, like, people use leadership in the Gentile way to rule over people, to give themselves power. But not so with you. The ones who are greatest among you, the solution to the disciples' argument, remember, is always, it's never like, hey, John's the greatest. He doesn't like give them that stratosphere. He doesn't look at a spouse and say, yeah, you're right. Your husband is stronger than your wife. He gives them each other and calls them to what? To servitude. If you want to be truly great, you want to be better at your wife, you want to be stronger than your husband, be the first one who says, let me be like Christ in this relationship. Let me come and die. And I don't want anybody to be exploited by that. I certainly don't want to be abused or oppressed by that. But in a Christian marriage where we are both doing that, there's something really beautiful, where we're both looking to serve and not looking to serve so that we win, not looking to serve so that we are owed, not looking to serve so that we are going to be paid back later, but looking to serve because this is what the Lord's called me to, and I delight. I love him and I love you, so I will do this. Cassie, talk to me about apathy here. Like, how does apathy play a role in the conflicts that come from comparison of strength? Like, what am I not caring about in my spouse when I'm comparing my strengths to their weaknesses?
Oof. I mean, I don't think you are kind of robbing them from dignity that God's given them as a person. And so, again, depending on what the perceived weakness and strengths are, I think the apathy, will then kind of give way to either despair or like a hopelessness that either a person can change or that your marriage can get better. And you just kind of, I think the role apathy plays is that you just stop trying to work together at all. And you spend too much time competing. Now you're like competing in your head.
Yeah.
Then you do actually working as a team to like meet whatever the goals are or whatever the kind of desired life is for you to build together.
Yeah.
And so you kind of just get stuck. If you grow apathetic, then you're going to find yourself just stuck in the constant, like kind of the rut and the cycle of compare, compete, rather than compare. Because I don't know that all comparison's bad, right? To acknowledge there's a weakness and a strength.
Difference is great.
Difference is great.
Yeah.
And so to say, okay, wow, there's this thing. How do we like leverage these things to work? Like we're a team. So this is a cooperative game we're playing or like a cooperative partnership that we have, then we're not wanting to steal each other's dignity or pursuits. We're actually wanting to work together to meet these things. So we want to save X amount of dollars. Like, how do we work together? All right, you're not as great at monitor spending or you like to impulse buy. Like, how can we help each other meet these goals? They're shared goals, you know? So all that to say, I think apathy will just kind of lead to eventually probably despair, which is super sad.
Yeah.
What would you hope? Like if you see a woman notice her husband's weaknesses, what emotion do you hope would rise up in here? Certainly it's not apathy that you would not be concerned. Yeah, compassion, right?
Yeah.
That when you see weakness in somebody else,
Help.
you would go like, oh, how can I be a help to you?
Yeah.
Not like
not a condescending.
Yeah, not a condescending pity, but an actual compassion. Like Christ had when he looks at Jerusalem and goes, oh, how many times have we called you Jerusalem and you ignored us? That's compassion where he's going like, I see your weakness and I wish it was different.
Oh, but our pride is this happened today to me. And I feel like you were reading my mail earlier, Chelsea, when you were like calendaring and all the things. I know a lot of moms can feel like, and I don't want to stereotype moms versus dads in any way, but I do feel like I can constantly feel like I bear the weight of our family calendar. I'm keeping track. I know when girls have practices, games, birthday parties, like whatever it is. And I got an email today. God bless the dad who's organizing this like camping trip, a backpacking trip. And he's included the moms on the email, but there's this thing and it conflicts with something that Eric has on what all this to say. Long story short. So I could have just let it slide and be like, well, Eric will figure it out, you know? And so, but instead I emailed him and just said, hey, you're probably going to want to clear your calendar for these 2 hours because you've got this thing, they moved it. Let me know if you need anything else. And even then my pride was like, look how great you are.
I'm running it.
Look how, you're going to really owe him one later when he thanks you.
Yeah, my back hurts from carrying the family.
It's just so ridiculous. But I kind of felt it rear and I was like, be quiet. I just told it to be quiet and sent the email and just, it's like we've been given each other so that we can, he wants to experience this with his daughter. He wants to go on the backpacking trip. He doesn't want to miss the mandatory meeting. And I want to help him do that.
But there's something in that too. I'll tell you where mine comes in personally, where Chelsea is strong and I am weak. I feel bad.
Like guilt.
Yeah. I feel bad. She's got to carry me in that.
And shame.
That doesn't come to me naturally. I hate that she has to do that for us. Or, I get that way about everything. How often somebody's taking care of one thing or the other. And I can get the same way, like my sin will take any version of this, right? If I'm the one that's weak, my sin twists it into like why I should feel guilty and ashamed. And if I'm the one that's strong, it twists it into why I should feel like, okay, in charge, and I'm probably owed something. And no matter what end of this I am, the strong one or the weak one, when you compare the two, I have some sinful tendency to respond.
Well, it's that false gospels because we don't believe we're actually justified and righteous before God.
Which the best kind of earthly word for that is insecurity. It's like my salvation is insecure. My identity is insecure.
Your marriage feels insecure.
Exactly. Like I'm insecure about how we feel about each other.
When we go the opposite route of my strength versus your weakness, but like you were talking about, Cassie, where you're like, oh, I'm good at the calendar. I'm going to solve this for Eric. I'm going to help him. And you get to actually use your gifts to bless your spouse. There is so much joy there. Like the times where we're like adding things up, a little tally mark of all the good things I've done versus all the things he's failed to do, that never produces joy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We just
bad fruit.
We just think it will. Right. It produces distance between spouses. It produces resentment. But it produces real joy when we actually get to serve one another. And so like it is so frequent in our marriage that we both say to one another, like, I'm so grateful for you and the way you do that thing I don't know how to do. I could never help our kids with a project, like any sort of, hey, make something. Anytime there's the word be creative in the instructions, I'm like, y'all are going to need to find daddy because I can't do that, and praise God. I feel really equipped to sit down with our kids with algebra and some other stuff.
I was going to say, that's a good example of where what I just talked about would come up. Like there was a season, a very short one, where our oldest son would ask his mom home. And I'd say no, if I was like, hey, no, mom's not home. And he's like, oh, because I need help with my math. And I'd be like, well, dad's here. Yeah, like, dad's right here. And in my pride, I was like, I can do this. And then you remember that night I tried to do it. And I texted you and was like, this was arrogant. I am trying
not
to.
Enough Khan Academy. I
am operating out of my wheelhouse right here. I'm thinking he's in grade school. I got this. And it was like, no one gets this. But
math?
Chelsea gets
new
it.
Math.
I don't know how new it was. It seemed brand new to me. They had some numbers and symbols in there that don't belong in math. But Cassie, you brought up such a good example of where this can come from that's really been jumping off of. How do you take some steps to personally grow in compassion towards your spouse, where you guys have strengths and weaknesses that are not matching up? How do you grow in compassion?
I think you pray for compassion. We have a father who's compassion. He sees our weaknesses. He cares. He acts. He sees, cares, acts over and over and over. He's met our greatest need through Christ, and then he keeps meeting our needs. If we ask for bread, he doesn't give us a rock.
Right.
He's so good, and he's so compassionate. And so we ask, God, make us like you. Help me. I want to be compassionate. I want to stop seeing this weakness as a barrier to my joy or feeding my pride. And I want to see it as an opportunity to help and to love and to serve, to be more like Jesus and to better the whole like family unit.
Yeah. And to pray for your spouse and to pray prayers of gratitude for your spouse.
Yeah.
Almost everyone in the church we know that's married prayed for a spouse. There was a time where they thought,
we wanted this.
I really want to get married. And then they met this person. They thought, I really want to get married to this person. And the Lord granted that. And then somehow you're like, where did things go? That now I'm sitting here making a list of everything that's wrong with him.
Yeah.
But when you go before the Lord and you say, Lord, thank you for Adam. Thank you for how you made him like this and like this and like this. That is going to cultivate something in your heart that going and complaining to your girlfriends and asking them all to support you is just never, ever, ever going to give you. The thing I was going to share from the scriptures from Proverbs 31 that just says about a woman who fears the Lord, that her children rise up and call her blessed. And it says, and her husband also, he praises her. And it's like, that's this opposite reward. And we don't necessarily obey God for these rewards, but isn't he gracious that when you do operate this way, there's just like blessing on blessing on blessing. It keeps going in a cycle, that when I do try to serve my husband with my gifts, rather than use my gifts to feel good about myself or to put him down or control him. And instead I go, I'm good at the calendar. So I'm just going to bless him. I'm going to take care of this. That'll help him. He'll be so grateful. It'll be great. And then he is so grateful. And like we all get to just revel in all of that affirmation and all of that gratitude and just, hey, I'm so glad I have you. It is very frequent in our home to say, I'm just so glad I'm married to you. I'm so grateful for you. And those words really blessed me from Adam. It means a lot to hear that and receive that. And I hope it means something good to Adam too. But I'm going, why are couples skipping out on that? You know, like
they literally are missing out on something sweet the Lord gave you.
Yeah.
Right. And I get it. Like where Chelsea and I are in a mode where that is normal for us, it can be hard to break into that if it's been abnormal.
It's like a weak muscle. Like you've got
It's atrophied, right?
Yeah.
You start small. We don't say like, hey, let's run a marathon. So let's try 26 miles tomorrow. We build up to that. And so it may start with, a lot of times for couples when they're struggling with this, I'll ask them to look through the Bible together and separately and say, what are the scriptures that come to mind for you when you think about what's hard to love about your husband or what's hard to love about your wife? And what are the verses about compassion for people, forgiveness for people that you feel like you can lean on in moments like that? Where do you see the Lord and how does he address it when he sees weakness in other people? When the woman gets caught in adultery, Jesus says, he who has no sin, throw the first stone. And who's the only one there with no sin?
Jesus.
He's the only one there with strength. Everyone else there is with weakness. Everyone else leaves. And at that moment, if he picked up the rock and chucked it at her, everyone would go, that's justice. You'd have to say, that's justice. But he doesn't. He sees her weakness and he does two things. He expresses a forgiving compassion. Neither do I condemn you. And then he also calls them to do better going forward. Now go and sin no more. And I think if we had a balance of those things in marriage, but we're so afraid of like, if I express compassion, what if they keep sinning? What if they keep wronging me? What if they keep betraying me? It's like, they might. In fact, you should expect that a spouse who is a human being will continue to disappoint you. You should expect that. The Lord will not disappoint you. But our role is still to reflect Christ in that I will forgive you and I will say, let's do this going forward. I will not pretend it didn't happen, but I will not hold it against you. So let's talk about that real quick. Chelsea, if a spouse wanted to own everything they could when it came to comparing strengths to weaknesses, what would that conversation look like? Let's say a wife comes to you and says, I want to go talk to my husband and we've been having conflict. I want help. I am comparing where I am good to where he is not. How can I own everything I can? How would you advise her?
Well, again, it's definitely not bringing up all those weaknesses to say, hey, I realize I was resentful because of your forgetfulness, your laziness.
You're always asleep.
Yeah. And I am sorry for being resentful about how awful you are. It's not that. It's more like, hey, the Lord showed me that I have a lot of pride about things that I have no reason to be proud of. And I've operated out of that pride. I'm sorry. I'm sure that's hurt you in a lot of ways. And I'm sure it's prevented us from enjoying each other the way that we could. And I'm going to try to seek the Lord for my justification and to pour joy and love into our marriage.
Cassie, a woman comes to you or a man comes to you, a couple comes to you and they say, hey, we need help. Help us have this conversation and help us think through this. I want to stop holding things against my spouse. I've got maybe a root of bitterness or just unforgiveness. How would you help them handle that
tell him
rightly?
Stop holding things against your spouse.
Just stop. Just drop it.
I would probably encourage them to pray for humility. So like we talked about praying for compassion. And I think when you're a proud person and you realize you're proud, I think the next step is to ask God to humble you and to really, really bow low before the Lord and ask him to see your own weaknesses in a realistic way. And that will kind of go along with owning your part. But then I think also just be ready for what that looks like to like, for him to show you your limits as a person, that even your strengths don't even come close to comparing to his strengths.
Yeah.
And how feeble our strongest strength is. It's still such a, okay, I'm good at the calendar.
Yeah.
You think in 100 years, I'm going to care that I was good about the calendar?
Right.
Like my strengths are really not that big of a deal. And so I think praying for humility is one step. And then maybe I'm oversimplifying it. I think just really being cautious and watching your speech, really being and choosing your words carefully and seeking to encourage
Not
your spouse.
throwing their weakness in their face and saying, look at who you are.
What if you just stop talking about their weakness?
Or one of the ways we do that sometimes is we don't just compare ourselves to them. We'll compare them to somebody else. Like, oh, this other husband does this. This other spouse was doing that. And you go, well, I'm not. Like Paul David Tripp tells this famous story of when he was having an argument with his wife, and he says 99% of the women in our church would love to be married to me.
Oh my gosh!
And remember what she said? She had such a great comeback. She goes, "Well, count me in the 1%." I just love it.
She's so spicy.
Yeah, but I just love that picture of like you have in your head how great you are. And if, like you're saying, Cassie, one of the solutions would be like, I need to be humbled, not humiliated, but I do need to be humble. And then I need to be compassionate. Where I see myself as strong, the Lord gave me strength so I might help those who need my strength. Where I see others as weakness or others weak, the Lord gave me compassion that I might care enough to do something about it. Not an opportunity for me to advance, not an opportunity for me to win, an opportunity for me to use what the Lord gave me, right? This is the attitude of Christ, Philippians chapter 2, that he had equality with God. He considered it not something to be grasped, but became like one of us. That's saying here, he's strong, but he became like the weak, that he might serve them.
And I think the last thing I would say is where weakness is tied to sin. Obviously, we want to forgive because we've been commanded to forgive and pray for our spouse to be free from sin, be freed from whatever it is. If there's a stronghold in their life, like we would seek now, to use whatever strengths we have spiritually, even if that is just simply prayer, but really seek to be used by God to be an agent of change and freedom for your spouse.
Yeah.
And not someone who just keeps holding and lording their sin. And that the spouse's confession would be something that would help you see it as a weakness and not an offense to you as a person,
Yeah. There is a pride that can say, why can't you just be more like me? But there's also like a humble compassion that can be an invitation to say, hey, I'm following Christ. I'd really like to invite you into that with me too. That's not arrogant to say, I want us to do this together. And if we're talking about like substance abuses and you're going like, I feel strong here. I'm not tempted towards these, but he is.
Yeah.
That you're going, I'm not saying, hey, just be more like me. I'm saying, let's both be more like Christ. And can I help you do that?
Yeah.
And if it's whatever the addiction or the struggle, or maybe it's a temper issue or patience or spending, that we're able to say, instead of just, hey, be more like me, can we both be more like Christ together? And where this is sin, let's cast it off. So easily entangles. And how do we run this race? And I've advised couples many times, like if you need to physically sit down and practically put out a notebook and say, what so easily entangles us? Mm-hmm. Like, what is the sin that so easily entangles? And then next step, what's the race that's been marked out for us? What are we called to do? We're going to spiritually lead this family. We're going to love one another. How does the first list get in the way of the second? And what are we going to do about it? We're going to pray through. What are we going to ask for victory over? Who do we know who has freedom here that we can talk to? Yeah. What does it look like for our church to be invited into this? And not just go, well, I guess I'm just weak in that area. I guess I'll just always be weak.
Yeah.
To go, no, I want to be called into the strength of Christ who can overcome any of my struggles. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Amen.
Well, thanks for listening, friends. If you think it's as important as we do to disciple our families, please help us out by giving us a great review wherever you listen to podcasts. You can visit one of our sponsors, share this episode with one of your friends. And if you want to keep up with us or join the conversation, you can find us at familydiscipleship.com or follow the Family Discipleship Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. We love you, listeners, and we'll be back with another new episode next week.